Greetings to Mr. Robert Bob Conrad, or as we knew him when we were growing up in Woodlawn, Connie, star of radio, television, and Hollywood, and professional boxer. You've done quite well, Bob. Congratulations. Also, I wish to say hello to your very nice staff, Eric Hines, Courtney, Jose. Very nice people, Bob. In any case, I'm not hiding from you. What I'm doing is showing you a picture of myself that was taken 62 years ago for my senior class. This is the way you might have known me when you were in Woodlawn. See if you can recollect ever seeing me. Also, it was during the time that you boxed out of Johnny Coulon's gym that I knew you. In any case, this is Tom Crane, the kid from Woodlawn, believe it or not. Okay, I'm not hiding. Eventually you'll get to see what I look like. Now, I'm going to shift over to my wonderful wife, Madeline. Madeline and I have been married for 58 years, believe it or not. We've got 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. All a pleasure. Madeline lived at 83rd and Southwest Highway in the St. Denis Parish, in a big old frame house that was on the corner. You might have passed it any number of times if you ever went down Southwest Highway. I recollect seeing it. But in any case, that's the way it is. All right. So, prepare yourself. I'm going to take my glasses off because they present a glare. Set them down and take the pictures away. So you're going to see me as I am today, and I hope it doesn't shock you too much. So, here I am, Bob. Pleasure to meet you all. Okay. Now, as far as movies are concerned, I'm going to move over a little bit here. This is my little studio, by the way. You'll see a picture there, a poster that was given to me, because I was in the movies too, Bob, believe it or not. Yes, I was an extra in the movie Road to Perdition, starring Tom Hanks, that was shot here in Chicago in a speakeasy called Calvino's. Very interesting. I met some very nice people, and the food was great. Also, I had a chance to meet Tom Hanks, and I have to say he is quite a guy, quite a guy. I really like Tom Hanks. But we're not here, we're here basically, and forgive me if I stumble now and then. I'm ad-libbing, I'm not reading from a script, and I'm trying to recall things in my mind. Also, yes, I missed Hyde Park High School, which you made mention of, Mel Torme, having attended Hyde Park High School. Did you know my sister, born in 1926, she was in his class, and she said he hardly attended school. Of course, it probably didn't matter then, because he was making so many singing engagements and appearances, so it probably didn't make any difference. But 2 of the other people, that attended Hyde Park was Steve Allen. He was the first late-night television host, believe it or not, Steve Allen. And my heroine, the lady who I admired tremendously, Amelia Earhart. She attended Hyde Park also. Okay, now that we're through with all those introductions, let us turn to my book, because basically that's why I'm here, to show you my book, Pat's Tavern. So I'm going to reach for Pat's Tavern and hold it up. This, I hope you get the glare out, cover was drawn and designed by my granddaughter, Natalie Schaub. Also, my grandson, Timothy William Robert, he formatted the book because he has a degree in computer science. That's the type of work he does. So just to scan some of the pages, he did all this layout. There's only 3 copies of this book in existence. One's in the Library of Congress. This one, of course, and another that I donated to the Hyde Park Historical Society. Mrs. Frances Vandervood, she printed excerpts from this book in the Hyde Park Historical Society newsletter. So she did right by me, and I thank her. But this is an interesting book. It covers the history of Woodlawn, what it was like growing up in the big city, and some of the things that we did as youngsters within the neighborhood. Also, I've included some poems, short stories, just to make a change and also add a little bit of interest to it. And then another thing is, with regards to my father was a hot tar and pitch roofer. He worked hard on the roofs, but he moonlighted as a professional gambler. My father's really expertise was in playing pinochle and 3-cushion billiards. And he hung around one of the city's largest gambling halls on Cottage Grove Avenue, right up the street, 6300. But in any case, my father, he was an interesting individual. You know, when you say gamble, he didn't play roulette, slot machines, or the like. He sat down at a table, and that's where you not only know how to cipher in your head cards, because he told me, Tom, it's not what the man's holding, it's the cards that he's discarding. He could cipher it as, he could tell by what the man discarded what he was holding in his hands. Quite an interesting thing. And he played the champ at Navy Pier in 1929 for the 3-cushion billiards championship, and he tied him. He told me he tied the champ. But in any case, through his gambling hall experiences and the like, he formed some interesting associations. People who were in the syndicate. And you know, my father was much admired by them. He was known as a stand-up guy. Pardon me. So much so that in later years, when he stopped roofing, he bought a filling station on 61st Street, right off of Cottage, behind a bar that was called the Grove Circle Inn, if you're familiar with that. Now, right up the street on Cottage was an automobile dealership. I won't mention any names, but they ran the numbers racket. That is, they were part of the syndicate, the numbers racket that they ran there, and the dealership was the cover for the operation. Consequently, because of my father's past associations, they were our major customers. So I had a chance firsthand to meet a lot of these people, because whenever they came in to get gas, I filled up their cars. And I have to say, I really have to say, they were some of the most nicest, honest and trusting people that I have ever met. I hold them in very high esteem. So much so that one of the associates that my father knew said to me, "Pat, if you let me take Tom under my wing, I'll make him a millionaire." And my father looked at him, he said, "Frank," he says, "I don't think Tom wants any part of that." So consequently, I'm sitting here rather than a mansion, or better yet, in the trunk of some car. But here I am, and I met those people, and like I say, they were some of the nicest people I ever met. And I was so proud of my father because they held him in such high regard. They often remarked to me what a wonderful father I had, and I'm very grateful for having been his son. I learned a lot from him. And there's a lot of truths and moral stories built into this book that my father passed on to me in dealing with different peoples. I learned a lot from him because, like I say, as a gambler, he studied character, he knew character. He probably knew me better than I knew myself. He knew the measure of a person by the way they talked, acted, and conducted themselves. And he always counseled me on how I should deal with others. I learned a lot from my father. Very proud of that man. Well, the sum total of all this is, Bob, I'm really looking for a publisher. I don't expect you to help me publish it, but if you would put out the word, I would appreciate it. And before I close now, as promised, I'm going to read you a couple of poems. I've got to put my glasses on because I can't read without them. But you'll enjoy two poems. One of them has to do with cowboys. And since you played a cowboy, let's see if I got the page marked off here right. Yes. The Last Cowboy. That's the title of this poem. But before I read the poem, I will show you a picture. And I hope I find it. Come on, Tommy boy. Oh. Okay. Here we are, Bob. You might enjoy this. This picture was taken approximately, 5 years before I met you. So I was about 5 here, and I met you when I was about 10 or 12, maybe 13. But here's a cowboy on the Midway Palisades, 59th Street. Here he is. There's the cowboy, all decked out. So you see, Bob, I was a cowboy too. So I was not only a movie actor, but I was a cowboy. How about that? I thought you would enjoy that. Okay. Now here's my poem. I hope you'll like it. It's called The Last Cowboy. The herd had slowly been driven away, and the cowboys all left in search of a better day. That is, except for one who decided to stay. City folks know nothing of the open range. Their only concern is to bring about change. Left behind and now all alone, with no place to rest his weary head, the cowboy wondered if he'd be better off dead. Still, he still struggled to see the sun rise, as it always brought pleasure to his fading eyes. Empty pockets and not even a smoke, he soon came to know what it meant to be broke. Still, the man that he was struggled on. Like many the nights the herd depended upon. Are we recording yet? Yes, we are. I've had trouble with this machine. It's turned off on me a couple of times, so forgive me. Okay. Still, the man that he was struggled on, like many of the nights the herd depended upon. Life at its worst, when the well runs dry, better to go off and lay down and die. Finally, they took him away. They buried him beneath the clover, and a wooden cross over his head. He ascended to heaven, only to join the herd that he once led. Now, I've got one other poem, and I think you'll enjoy it, because this has to do with the way we grew up in Woodlawn. It's a reminiscing type poem, but there's something more to it, because I call it the time machine. And like any child, you have to have an imagination, especially during the days of early radio. If you remember when we listened to all the old radio programs, you know, Captain Midnight and what have you. But anyhow, the time machine. 2 kitchen chairs back to back, sitting on the floor. Don't be afraid as I turn out the light and close the door. You in one, and myself in the other, we will travel to a place that is lost in space. See, I told you, as we turn back the clock, look below. There is our old city block. Maggie and her little brother, always in tow. Where they are headed, I do not know. Little Susie, covered in freckles from her brow to her chin, she always smiled with a toothless grin. And then there was Sally with knobby knees. When she wanted candy, she always said please. Watch as they jump rope, and 2 at a time took skill. As the other girls turned, it gave them a thrill. Penny candy at the corner store, you could smell the sweetness as you walked in the door. I'm checking my computer here to see if it's still recording. So a penny candy is as you smell the sweetness as you walk in the door. Give them a nickel, and you always got change, as they put him in a brown paper sack, and always smiled as you turned to look back. Bubble gum came with a baseball card that you often traded in the schoolyard. Billy had a jackknife and could whittle a stick or make a boat that was pretty slick. Bobby had a sack of marbles, and he always won. Losing to him was not very much fun. The street lamp served as our playground light, although it was never very bright. Hopscotch was a girl's game, that much is true, and they laughed with joy as they reached sky blue. Cops and robbers was our game. If you shot him in the leg, he always came up lame. The Sunday matinee was our thrill. 3 cartoon movies and cowboys and Indians filled the bill. Now we must return and make it to port, as our time is running short. If we hurry, we might catch them as they pass through the years, but you must never let them see your tears. So, Bob, that is generally about my book. Once again, you mentioned it on the radio last time. I'd appreciate it if you spread the word. I'm looking for a publisher. I could hardly afford to self-publish or go on ebooks or anything else. What I really need is a publisher. And of course, we would each get our percentage, whatever terms they want. So it's been a real pleasure talking with you and also with your staff. I thank them once again for the very nice way they've treated me. Courtney and Eric and Jose, and especially yourself, Bob. I wish you every bit of luck in the world. Goodbye, farewell from the kid from Woodlawn. Take care. God bless. That's an old Irish saying. God bless. Okay, I'm going to stop this and cut it off. Take care.